Thank you to my Patreon supporters. A double shout out thank you to Xavier Zamora, Velimir Brakovich, We Love SafeMoon.com, Murad Shaker, Victor Vegas, and SafeMoon Ons for being higher level patrons. You can join that for as little as $1 a month. There is a link down in the description below. Also, thank you to my YouTube members. You can click the join button below this video if you'd like to show your support there. Please keep in mind, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Everything I'm sharing is my own opinion. It's my own research. I highly encourage you to go do your own research. And speaking of research, I'm actually here. I've got a guest for this episode. This is Matt on Twitter. He's known as Matt @Matt_Ferny, Ferny. I'll actually include a link to his Twitter account in the description. And he is the host of the SafeMoon Australia discussion Twitter space. So he's going to be sharing what they've been talking about in the community space with SafeMoon and the Gambia and some things that they've been piecing together. I wanted to give him the floor for that. And then again, if you want to be able to chime in and see what else that they've been coming up with, you can check them out over on their Twitter space. So Matt, it's really nice to have you here, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's awesome to have a guest speaker on here, someone that's outside of our traditional circle that I've had on the channel that's also a supporter of SafeMoon. And I'm very intrigued to hear what ideas that you guys have been coming up with. So I'll go ahead and leave the floor to you whenever you are ready.
Great. Thanks very much. And thanks again for having me. So for the last 5 weeks, I guess, we're in the SafeMoon Australia discussion space on Twitter. We've been going, I guess, as we've discussed, down the rabbit hole of what is happening with SafeMoon in the Gambia. So my research has been fairly substantial, I guess. And I guess initially we were looking at essentially the economy, why the Gambia in the first place, the country itself, obviously like I said, the economy, trade routes, the infrastructure that's in place, and pretty much piecing what we can together from the information or limited information we've had from SafeMoon in regards to the Gambia, Barajali Group, etc. So what we have found is fairly significant. So initially, there are 2 significant infrastructure projects in the Gambia. So the first one being Taft City, which is a smart city, which a lot of people obviously know about, which is essentially a 500-hectare piece of land that they are developing at the moment. What we've found is that there's 2 estates that are currently being built, the first one being Tulip Gardens, which currently has 60 houses completed, and the second one being Dalaba, Dalaba, in the Gambia, which is also under construction. There's a lot of infrastructure being put into the Gambia with the smart city coming into play. It's roughly about six minutes outside of the capital, Banjul, and it will house, apparently it will house up to 1 million people. So that's obviously a significant project. It is a smart city, so renewables are on the card. The other project that has been underway since 2017 is the Fiber Nbn Network. And essentially, they're running 420 kilometres of fibre cable across the country. And the people that are doing that is Gamtel. Gamtel have two parts to their company, Gamtel being the national carrier for landlines and Gamcell obviously for wireless mobile connection. In the Gambia, there's currently 5 carriers. So the top one being AfriCell, which has 65% of the customers use AfriCell in the Gambia, with 35% being shared between Cormium and QCell. And there is a new company that has just won a license in January that I've been able to find, which is called Giraffe Telecom. They're coming into the space. The last one is Gamcell. So unfortunately, their wireless network hasn't been upgraded and is still at 2G, whereas AfriCell and QCell are currently at 4G capacity or ability. I guess the limitations with the current setup is that they're mainly in the capital, which is Banjul. There are maps which we'll go through shortly showing the coverage, and yeah, we'll talk more about that in a second. But it will show essentially that roughly 96% of the country doesn't have connectivity to or coverage for the wireless network. Obviously, they're working with the infrastructure of the NBN network. They're trying to obviously bring landlines into every home within the Gambia. So just recently, what I found was that the Ministry of Finance held a public and private partnership validation exercise. If you can just pull that up for me, please, Atlas.
Sure, I got that up, ready to go already.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and essentially, the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs is a gentleman by the name, as it says, Mumbai Njai. And he held I guess, a gathering of certainly the country's business people and officials. The interesting thing about him, I guess, is that his name is Mumbai Njai. The person who owns TAF Africa Global and is actually developing Taft City in the Gambia, his name is Mustafa Njai. So just to give you a bit of an idea.
Yeah, suggesting possibly something with a family.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So what I also found is that there's a gentleman by the name of Matakai Njai who works for Gamtel as well. The other thing I found, which was quite interesting, there's a picture of Jack Haynes and John at a boardroom table, which I'm sure you've brought up already. And they're sitting at the boardroom table with not only Gamtel, but also Gamcell. So it's the senior management of both parts of Gamtel. And as it says there's a calendar there, but I've actually gone down the rabbit hole a bit and can name some people on that table who were sitting there. So knowing, it's both Gamtel and Gamcell. The other interesting thing, apart from the fact that Mustafa Njai is involved with obviously the project, the smart city being Taft City, is that he also sits on the board of directors for Gamtel. So yeah, that's I found that also quite interesting. Another thing is people are probably trying to understand where SafeMoon fits into all of this. My thinking, and it's certainly speculation, but my thinking is that being that they're at the boardroom table with Gamtel and Gamcell, I believe that they're actually creating a 5G network which has IoT capability. And I've been down I guess down the rabbit hole with mesh networks as well. I know a lot about LoRaWAN and its capability. I don't believe it's a LoRaWAN network. There's a company in Australia that leads the way in LoRaWAN, which is called Meshed, or Meshed, shall I say, MESHED. There's information you can find, obviously, across the internet and on YouTube. And essentially, they're working with 32 councils here in Australia, and they use the LoRaWAN network, which is long-range wide area network capability. But in Australia, they're using it to monitor assets such as environmental sensors, soil probes. They're monitoring assets such as smart bins, so they're not there's no expenditure as far as having to pick a bin up when it's not necessary. So that's how they use the LoRaWAN network. The limitation is that it's actually not a mesh network. It's an end-to-end network with repeaters that are in the middle. So my thinking was that, and after a lot of research, is that there's a new network which is called a thread mesh network. And essentially my thinking is that they're using the wind turbines as nodes for the mesh network. So essentially with the thread mesh network and the nodes is they're interconnected. When there's failure in the network, hypothetically, if the wind turbine goes down, the other wind turbines will pick up the signal and finish the message on the actual network. So being that it's easy to set up, obviously the 600, the 600s and the 2400s, I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but that's essentially what I'm thinking across the Gambia to give full coverage and a 5G IoT capability network, which obviously will make it a lot easier for Gambians to essentially get onto the network. It's going to make it a lot cheaper, and it's going to be a lot more competitive. The other large thing that that I noticed with the research is the Africa coast to Europe cable system. So essentially, there's a cable system that runs down the African coast, West African coast, and it links in with Portugal and also France for for international communications. Which is obviously enormous. My understanding is that there's been a fault just off the coast of Banjul for the Gambian people for some time. My understanding, and with research, my understanding is that what's had to happen with the fault is that the Gambian government have had to run a cable up to Dakar in Senegal, up north, in order to connect into their ACE cable system, which obviously impedes, the load and the rest going through that particular system. So, and it clogs up the network essentially. There is a post there or a picture with ACE cable fault off Gambia, staging branch repair 12th of January 2022. So they're currently in the place of, the space of repairing that fault, which is going to obviously make a significant impact in telecommunications and for the Gambian population. The other thing I've uncovered, I guess, is and I was thinking about is obviously and I've discussed further is the connectivity. So I've gone in and I've found mapping of the different networks to support what I've said. The first one being AfriCell's coverage. So you'll see that 4G is mainly in or 4G plus is mainly in the capital of Banjul, with 3G and 2G capability on the southern edge of the actual country itself. So they are the largest carrier in the Gambia. Again, most of the country does not have coverage. So the second one is Cormium. As you can see, it's still on 2G at this point in time. We have the next one is QCell's coverage. So again, they have 4G and 3G coverage in quite a lot of the southern part of the Gambia. Again, not a lot of coverage for the nation. And the last one is Gamcell's coverage. So as you can see, Gamcell have 3G capability in Banjul, essentially, and a small spatter, I guess, of 2G coverage across the Gambia. Hence why I believe that that's what SafeMoon will be working with Gamtel on. So the other thing that I've also been thinking about is, firstly, Gamtel is 99% owned by the Gambian government and 1% by the Port Authority in the Gambia. So what I've been thinking is that, with not only with the network that's being put in across the Gambia and the wind turbines, the actual thread mesh network doesn't require a lot of power. It is secure. It's scalable as far as connecting other devices, and essentially, again, like I was saying earlier, it's not prone to failure due to the setup of the nodes. Apart from that, I've been also thinking about other things such as Lynn Spraggs and Robert Spraggs and their part in SafeMoon. So putting these pieces together, my thinking is that Lynn and Robert Spraggs aren't only building building out a blockchain for SafeMoon, but they're also building a blockchain and blockchain technology, given their background with the US government, for the Gambia. So, and the reason I say that is that, essentially, if you look at the economy that is in the Gambia at the moment, so with the Port Authority being 1%, 99% being the Gambian government, they can track goods through their ports. They can track telecom, obviously their usage and in and outgoings. So they can look at the expenditure, the taxes that they should be accruing, etc. I guess. So, like John was saying, being that agriculture is their largest commodity and the largest export that they have for the country, which is peanuts and cotton. They also have fish, which is the third highest. But being that it's agricultural based, I believe, and as John has mentioned, if you can track from planting right through to export, it will make a significant impact to the Gambian government and the economy. Apart from that, we also have Jake Hammock. So Jake obviously has significant tech when it comes to glass houses and obviously being self-sufficient and growing methods which would increase the crop productivity for the Gambian people. So it makes sense that Jake is actually involved in that space. Apart from that, I have also found that 40% of only 40% of Gambians have access to power or electricity. Obviously, meaning that 60% of the nation doesn't have access to power. So, as far as I know, I'm not sure. Obviously, if that's in the pipeline for SafeMoon. I'm extremely excited about finding this information and Atlas and I have been talking about it back and forth, looking forward to SafeMoon's future with this. Again, just want to add that Mustafa Njai has a project. He signed an agreement with the Sierra Leone government last July to actually put another smart city in Sierra Leone outside of their capital. He has actually found the land, and I'm not sure, obviously, at this point in time when they're looking at starting that project. But I can tell you it's promising. So that's essentially what I found at this point in time. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, I think that it's a lot of very interesting bits of data that you've been collectively putting together and potentially painting a bigger picture. And when you talk about all these things, you start to really just get a bigger grasp on what kind of an impact what SafeMoon is trying to do that they could do. Now the question is that the route that they're choosing? When we go and do these kinds of rabbit holes, whether it be you or me or someone else, a lot of the stuff comes down to saying, hey, what would make a smart business decision? Where is there market opportunity here? With what we're building out, how do we tap into that market? And that's where we start to piece together what they said with what makes sense logically. So logically speaking, when we talk about this, there seems to be paths forward. It's not a question of, is it really that possible? I mean, it's a small little question we can definitely ask. But the reality is that we, as people, they're not even having the active discussions with the employees of these companies, Gamtel, QCell, all that kind of stuff. We're not having those conversations. SafeMoon's team is. But based on what we have presently available publicly, we can be led down some very interesting paths for sure. And so that just leads someone like me, and I'm assuming probably you, more inclined to believe that the delivery is coming. It is capable. There's other options that might be out there outside of what we're looking at. And if we got it wrong on this, well, then that just proves my point that there was more than one option. And if you make these claims on this stuff and it goes exactly like what we're talking about, then boom, right? It just verifies that all this information that we have had has been readily available. And if people wanted to be reassured that their investment into SafeMoon was actually going to end up doing something, It's this kind of stuff that should make people feel more comfortable. And everything that's going on right now in the market space, the influencers, Dave Portnoy, Fox Business News, the other big YouTubers doing their investigations and all this kind of stuff. You combine all that, it makes the waiting game feel even harder. What did John say? John said that the easiest thing is also the hardest thing, right? Which is we just need to hold. We just have to wait. They're the ones that have to put in all the time and the effort and the work in. But it's not easy for us to hold when you're looking at the market and your whole portfolio is bleeding. And then you got all these other things that are going on that's tempting you to want to sell, right? And how does SafeMoon work? You sell, you got 10% hit. So whatever you decide to do, you're going to lose an additional 10% because of just how the tokenomics work. So is it really worth it? Are your concerns so high that this thing is just not going to go anywhere or not going to recover that you'd rather take a loss or take very little in gains or just take whatever kind of gains you do have? Because the reality is people come in at different places. There are people that bought in at the top. There are people that bought in even lower of a price than where we're at right now. And there are people that are still in profit zone. There are people that are still in version 1. There are people that still have SafeMoon. That's a whole separate other conversation. But I could tell you and the people with the Australia Discord group, with the Australia discussion on Twitter, I should say, my bad. You guys have been putting some serious work, and I can see some overlays on some of the stuff that you guys have discussed, as well as what I've kind of looked over. Just one example is the wind turbines, and you're talking about how it could be used as the mesh network. I've had a similar mentality on that and how it sort of overlays. And there was a name of what I had found, and I did a video on this, of connecting West Africa to East Africa, starting essentially with the Gambia, which is on the west, all the way over to Senegal, which is almost the exact straight line. And you deal with all of that sand. It's a very arid place. And if you're going to be planting wind turbines and you're going to use it as a mesh network, it would kind of make sense that you would use it in a place where there's going to be wind consistently year-round. And by using this hydrophobic nanoparticle technology, and you're dealing with sands and things like that, it's not just about rain, right? You don't want to have dirt be collecting inside of your stuff and causing issues from it being able to operate. So yeah, it kind of makes sense. But again, there's multiple avenues here. You're talking about Gamtel and diving down that whole rabbit hole a little bit more. So I think it's incredible, and I encourage everyone, if you're listening, to go in, pop over to the Twitter space. Again, I'll have his link in the description. He's the host of the Australia SafeMoon discussion Twitter group. This is Matt, aka @Matt_Ferny, Ferny. Matt, is there anything else that you want to talk about on this before we do wrap up this video?
Oh, look, I just encourage people, I guess, to do their own research, go a bit further and find out what you can. It's definitely worth the time and it has been a lot of research, but it is worth it. It certainly set my mind at ease and other people, but it is out there. And yeah, I just encourage people to do that. Please come into the space. You're welcome. We do things a bit differently. We open the discussion up to everyone. So all is welcome, but thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, it was great to have you come on board. I'm just scrolling through here because I remember that there was still additional graphics, and I know I shared with you privately, but you had your own stuff on the side there. So I'm like, let me just make sure that there's a part in the video here where I can show all the research that this guy did, even breaking down with this guy right here of Stephen Hatch, which I'm trying to recall. Did you end up in the video talking about him as well?
I did, yeah. I can touch on it if you like.
Yeah, touch on it just a little bit again.
Sure. So Stephen Hatch is was the human resource talent acquisition and marketing communications person for Barajali Group. And it can be found on LinkedIn. It's there. So his time with Barajali Group was between September 2019 through to present, 2 years and 8 months. What I found interesting about what he's put on LinkedIn is that it says here on paragraph 2, advising CEO and executive team on workforce and business strategies to successfully launch their startup organization. So whether or not that's related to what we've been talking about today, I'm not sure. I find it very interesting, but I think I'll leave it there and leave it with people wondering, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Something for people to pop into the Twitter space for you and be like, hey, I watched that video with Crypto Atlas and you, and I thought about it, and what do you guys think of this? So if anyone's listening, there you go. If you wanted anything to kind of hone in and focus in on and lead into a discussion with other people and you want to contribute to that, that's a fun little piece there. Remember, at the end of the day, all this is for fun. It's speculation. We're not saying this stuff is for sure going to happen. But hey, it sounds incredible. If this stuff actually does happen, then yes, this should make SafeMoon's credibility go through the roof and just really shed a better light on the whole project and everything that they're doing moving forward. So again, thank you so much, Matt. Anyone that's watching the stream, I do have referral links in the description if you want to get free crypto, free stock, you want to protect your crypto. If you're new to the channel, do not forget to hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up like button, click the bell icon. God bless, and I will see you in the next episode.